Graham, good to see you again.
Hi, mate.
2 games, 2 wins. I mean, I said to you after the game on Saturday, strong start to the season, but in terms of reflections now, you must be really pleased with how you've got underway.
Like you said, it's only 2 games and one in 2 different competitions, but I think the players have built up the sort of understanding of the game through pre-season. I think pre-season was really productive for us. Then you come into obviously the first game of the season, a little bit of rustiness, which is expected. But I thought Saturday was a real good test for us, and we come through it really well. Watched the game back yesterday. Some bits we can do better. A little bit at 2-0. I thought we could have managed the game a little bit better without them getting a couple of opportunities. So that's something we'll look at. But over the 90-minute piece, we were deserved winners. I'm glad we got what we deserved from it. Atmosphere was brilliant. The players sort of another step forward. So yeah, there's a lot to build on. Is
it pleasing from the sense that whilst there are familiar faces within the group, there are obviously new faces within the group, new faces in the starting 11 on Saturday as well, that there's that understanding of what the new faces need to do within the setup, the structure, and that's clearly from the off anyway, starting to show and provide what you want. Yeah,
it's twofold really, because look, we have a way of playing and everyone is affected by each other. So it's not just the new players coming in and understanding what we're about. The players that we've had before have got to play next to these players. So there's an understanding that needs to be made between them about what they're good at, what they bring to the game. The slight nuances between different players, which is it's always there for any football team. So I think it's both sides of it. The players who have been here before learning about what the new guys bring in, and forming those sort of understandings. You know what they're capable of. You know what Macaulay's capable of in possession. You know how he wants to defend within our structure. Obviously, it's there's not much wriggle room in that sort of aspect. To be fair, to do your own thing, you know, it's quite clear what we need to do. But certainly in possession, the options we want to offer players in possession, it's down to their quality and their decision making, their intelligence to pick the right pass, to show what they're about. And different players do have different attributes. So I've been really pleased with how quickly those guys have settled in. I knew they'd settle in off the pitch really well because we've got a great group anyway. But on the pitch, you know, I know for a fact we do things a little bit differently that go against what you might have done regularly for other teams, not just one team, but regular. And we have to sort of break those habits down and out, and then they have to trust it. Yeah. And then the results sort of give them the confidence. And now this does bring success.
Just speaking with Callum now, actually, regarding that very point where you can be told to play a certain way and learn about that certain way, but the winning validates that certain way to an extent and gives confidence and the like. And looking at his position alongside the dynamic with Antoni as well, I know central midfield's been a big talking point through the summer.
Not for me, it hasn't.
Well, quite. And on that point, really, to see them performing in the way that they have done, albeit, yes, 2 games, but a different dynamic to an extent, that in itself must be reassuring in some way, or I guess, did you have any doubts about it?
No, I didn't have any doubts, because I know Callum has played that position many times at a really good level, at championship level. I've managed Sarce before and played him as a central midfield player, and he scored lots of goals. So, you know, it's common sense from my perspective, but I know I can understand people having a question mark over it because of Sarce's previous 2 seasons playing a different position and not knowing Callum intimately, or his whole career, and just taking it off his last season, you know, which was or his last club, I should say. So it's I get people questioning things, but I like people. I like it if people keep an open mind, really, rather than have potential doubts and then keep those doubts regardless of what they see. You know, that's it. So if it doesn't work, and if different other things don't work, Tyreek wasn't a left wing back when we signed him, or when we came on loan, but you see his position now is superb. Ibitori, we signed a left wing back and plays left of the back 3 sometimes. So there's loads of there's loads of opportunities for players to play in our team, and when we have an idea of our team, we have sort of blueprint of what attributes each position needs, each position, not each player, each position. And then we get these players together, and we know like 60-70% of them. I think I said that before in recruitment. And but then you go, actually, this lad's capable of doing this, and actually it's more suitable for his attributes and so forth. And I think it opens up a bigger picture for the players, but also it's a necessity because we don't carry 25, 26 players. So we're going to have to use players in different positions to actually be competitive for 50 games. So there's a common sense behind it about opening up the idea of how these players or where these players can play. But we definitely know what Sarce's attributes are. We definitely know what Callum's attributes are, and they suit it perfectly. But Henry will come into the team and he'll play slightly differently, and I think he can play both those positions. So there's you've got George Lapsley, who's probably more geared for the advanced one, and I think it's if we'd have gone from the midfield 2 years ago to this midfield, I think everyone would go, oh yeah, it's seamless, because last year's midfield was different, and we've had success with both. That's the thing. It wasn't one was more successful than the other. It's just getting the best out of each individual in the system that we have, and what I would say is both players really enjoy playing there, and if they didn't and they spoke to me, then I'd change something. I really would, But I think they've talked to it really well. They're both intelligent footballers, and but there's many other positions and relationships that are going on as well. But it's quite interesting that debate sometimes. Yeah,
and I think Callum said, having looked at the running data, Antoni was through the roof from Saturday, wasn't he? It was something like that, yeah.
There's a myth about Sarce. I think sometimes that he's 34, 35, this, that, the other. It's a load of rubbish. It is. He was the highest running player in the team on Saturday. I know from my own experience of playing late into my 30s that my data didn't drop. It actually got better. I was a better runner at 37 than I was at 27 because of how I prepared myself and how motivated I was. And I see the same with Sarce. I see the same with loads of players in our team. And so I think I think it'll be a different type of running from what he's been used to in the front three, Sarce. He's right at the front from day one of pre-season. Him and Jake Beesley, they're having a race on day one. So that says enough. Look, we know we have to potentially manage Sarce during the week, which we're trying to do with other players as well, because I'd rather manage their week and then have them available for the games rather than manage their games and be able to train every day. So but it's easier when you have a bank of experience with any individual and you learn what they're capable of, really.
Yeah. In terms of bodies and how you came through on Saturday, fitting well, everyone that played and was involved?
Yeah, I think Callum had a bit of a sore forehead he got obviously kicked in the head right just before he came off, but he's out. Everyone's been out there today that was part of it on Saturday. So we've got a reasonably clean bill of health. It's just Tariq's missing. So when we find out fully about the extent of that, then we'll know. But everyone else is pretty good.
Just in regards to Tariq and his position more generally, I know you mentioned on Saturday that you need to know sooner rather than later regarding his future, because obviously the window is still open. But regardless of Tariq's situation, would you say that wing back was still an area that you'd look to strengthen anyway, maybe more so on the right than the left?
Potentially, yeah. Potentially, I think is something that we looked at potential central midfield players, but the players that were we felt we could get, I felt we had better players already here, personally. And if we're ever bringing up or need to bring up any young players from the academy to fill in little gaps, it's sometimes at wing back. So, for instance, we've had to use like Harry Ibbotson at right wing back in training and a couple of games in pre-season. Yeah. And obviously he's a forward. So, not saying he might not ever do that job. Sorry, don't get thrown back at me. But no, I think it's a couple of positions where probably if Tariq's injury is is more than just a niggle, then we probably look at those two areas especially. I think, but we're really happy with who we have there right now. But you're probably right. I think we are a little bit light in that area.
And is central midfield still on that list of areas?
I think it's potential because I feel we have 4 there already, and I think in previous seasons I should say, I think the first season I think we only had 3. Like it was certainly I'm sure in the second part, or maybe 4, it was Richie, Pato, Tommy Lee and Brandon Keller, and that was it. And I feel we have 4 already in the squad. So we didn't have a direct replacement for Richie because we felt he'd play every game. We didn't have a direct replacement for Max because we felt he'd play every game. So we ran reasonably light in central midfield anyway, with authentic centre midfield players. I think we've played different players in there at different times, but I believe with Sars, Callum, Henry, George Lapsey, I think that's a good 4 for us to have, where they've got all the attributes to play there. It's only if we looked at potentially signing one last week, but I didn't feel they were as good as what we have. So I'm not going to go down that route unless we're improving the squad. I would say we're probably positionally light at wing backs rather than centre midfield.
And just finally on recruitment, again more generally, how disciplined do you have to be as a manager when it comes to using your resources as best you can? On that very topic there of central midfield, knowing actually no, I could bring that body in, but that isn't actually going to help me, even though it might give me a body.
Yeah, no, it makes sense because there is a pressure to sign players as quickly as possible and have your full squad ready. And I've learnt in the past that if you do it too quick or too hasty, then you're going to pay for it later down the line. And it's not an exact science, and obviously not every player works out as well as them all, because you can't play them all the time, and that sort of dents a player's progression sometimes if they're not playing. But I think you've got to feel it as well, that it's the right thing to do. If it doesn't feel right, and you plough ahead maybe to tick a box or to keep people calm, I think it's just going to come back and bite you on the backside later on, and I wouldn't want us to be that. I think, and I speak about it all the time, the discipline in recruitment. I spoke about it since day one. I think in our first window here, where we were struggling a little bit in League Two, we only signed 2 players, Sam and Callum Kavanagh, and because I wanted us to understand what we had in the building, and I didn't want to just have. I wanted to understand the group we already had. To add another 6, 7 into that, it would have just muddied the waters. So I felt that when we got to the end of that season in the summer, we had a real clear picture of what we needed to do, and I like logical decisions if we can, as much as you can. Sometimes you have to have a little bit of a punt. I get that if the time constraint is there, and also we have to be within our financial means and everything. So all these conditions come into it. But I've always got to see a route and an idea of a player coming in and where they're going to compete for and where they can fit into our team. Not just that's another player that we might play there, probably isn't going to play. That would be the worst case scenario if you just think he's not really going to compete. So I'd rather us be like that, but obviously we do need still a couple more players in, because the challenge for the next 4-5 months is going to be quite intense.
Yeah. In terms of what lies ahead in the immediate future, naturally all eyes are drawn to Thursday evening because of the opposition, because of the occasion, because of the stadium, because of the context of Sheffield Wednesday as well. Naturally, made the point to Callum, put your way as well, as a player you must relish those opportunities. As a manager you must relish those opportunities in those games. Yeah,
I think so. When you're chasing a promotion, you always sort of in the back of your mind, that there's going to be an uplift in opponents, in stadiums, in atmosphere and everything. So it's something we fought hard for a year ago, to get out of League Two into League One. And you saw the stadiums we played at last year, the atmospheres we created, home and away, and some of the results we had were fantastic. They're brilliant memories for everybody, and I think it's a great challenge for everybody. It was, can we go into this cauldron, into this atmosphere and be who we are? That's the real litmus test for us. And I think we showed that on quite a few occasions last season and the season before. But this is an early one for us. Obviously, it's our first, away game, competitive away game. And but but it's a brilliant one. I remember playing at Hills. It was one of my favourite grounds to play at as a player. It really was. I think maybe because of my age, a history of the cup semi-finals being there and all that lot, and obviously when Cov won the FA Cup in '87, played there twice, the quarter-final and the semi-final. So, and you know, I always seemed to play reasonably well there and score or something like that. So I always thought it was a brilliant stadium to play. The atmosphere is good, and you can almost smell the history, a little bit like the Valley Parade. You know what I mean? You can still see the scars and the memories sort of swelling in the building. I think, you know, for our players to go there again, look, there'll be players in our squad that have played there before, but probably not as many as I think right now. But I know what my team is built on. I know what mentally they're about. They'll be looking forward to it without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, and obviously there'll be the opposition on Thursday naturally, but from a more general standpoint, as a football enthusiast, is it pleasing to see a club of that size and that history on an equal footing now seem to be on the right way forward after the troubles of recent past?
Yeah, look, you don't want to see any football club in trouble like that. You don't. It's if you're a football supporter, you know, and you've got these histories and these memories of the past and everything, but so you don't want to see anyone struggle like that way. But on the pitch, we don't want anyone to be better than us. So there's a little, you know what I mean? I'm more focused on what our club is about and what we can produce and the health of our club, you know, because it's important, because obviously Bradford's had its difficulties in the last 2 decades on a similar scale maybe, without, you know, knowing the detail of it. And I think there'll be people out there that are glad that we're on a good footing now as well, in the same similar mould. But yeah, you want your football clubs to be healthy, because you know how many people are investing in those football clubs, the supporters, the histories, the families, all that sort of thing, and you know, and the players and the staff, all the work that goes into creating a football club and keeping one alive is massive. So any club that's in trouble, it needs as much help as possible, but you know, every club needs to be run correctly.
Yeah, and then obviously the game after that, second round of the League Cup, Burnley at home. That must have been a nice moment for you when the draw was made.
Yeah, but I think I said about the draw, I'd like a big team at home, you know, because we've played some really good fixtures, certainly last year in this trophy, in this cup. You know, Blackburn, Stoke, and Newcastle all away, and I'd love one of them to have been at home, you know, because I know the atmosphere we create at Valley Parade, and I know there's an offer on the tickets which is encouraging more supporters, and whenever that happens, we always sort of rise to that occasion. I love that fact that our team always gets an extra bounce about itself when we play in those sort of environments. But the level of opponent is great. It's another test for our players, young and old, to put themselves, you know, on a pitch against a team from high levels and challenge themselves and see what they're about. But from a personal level, I had an absolute amazing time at Burnley. Something I didn't expect when I joined there, you know, because I was joining from one of the enemies. But they took me in and I had an amazing time there.
Yeah, and you went quite far in the League Cup as well, didn't you, with Burnley? Wasn't it semi-final?
Yeah. The year we got promoted to the Premier League, actually, we got to the semi-final in this cup competition as well. And we beat Chelsea and Fulham and Arsenal and Tottenham in the second leg, and unfortunately lost in the last minute. And it was a bit of a heartbreak, but when I look back on that season, you know, we got to the Carling Cup semi-final and then won promotion to the Premier League as a Championship club. It was one of the best seasons of my life. You know, I had such a good time on the pitch, but an even better one off it with the players and all that sort of thing, and the way the supporters was. So there's a lot of similarities I feel here. I said that to Skip quite early on in our tenure here, that I can see similarities between when we came here to when I joined Burnley, and so I'm looking forward to the game. But obviously my only focus right now is Sheffield Wednesday on Thursday night, because we have to be focused, because it's going to be a really tough game. Thanks, mate.
With the Wednesday game being moved to Thursday, that means, and then the Burnley game on a Wednesday, you've got nearly a week.
You're confusing me now, mate.
You've got nearly a week in between, where
Yes.
Normally it'd have been a Saturday game.
Yeah.
And let's start. Is that going to be an advantage with it being so early in the season for players to maybe get a bit more time on the training pitch?
Potentially, yeah, but I think Look, whenever there's a larger gap between one game, there tends to be a smaller gap the other side of it. And I think there's a couple of days between Burnley and Plymouth. So, you got to play the games anyway. So we don't make a big deal about how long we've got to prepare for a game, how short we've got to prepare a game. We just make sure we're ready. That's it. And the first thing is mentally. So we talk about in pre-season actually that games get changed all the time now because of the TV schedules. You have to be prepared to perform any day, any given day. You've got to be ready, no excuses. So, listen, training ground time is valuable because of the sort of this stage of the season, certainly to really bed in your ideas. But I think the team have got a good grasp of that. But like I say, any time reassuring it and stamping it down is important. But when the games come, we have to be ready, regardless of the timescale in between.
And just before the season started, you said there were a few players that weren't quite ready for the full 90 minutes yet. How have they progressed in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, they have. I think you never, whenever you get to the first game of the season, you never have 20 players that have all got equal minutes. It's just impossible. You probably need an 8 or 9 game pre-season program to do that, and that would just be too much. You wouldn't be able to get the training time. So there's always going to be players that are slightly ahead of others. There's players that pick up little bits in pre-season, and we prefer them to report them to us and miss 1 or 2 days rather than keep persevering with it and they break down, they miss a month, because that's hard to then get back. So there's always a bit of broken time from players, but if they've prepared right and looked after themselves right in the summer, they should be able to get through it, no problem. But there's always bits and pieces. But you try in the first month of the season to get them all up to speed, and obviously when the different cup competitions happen, we got a history of changing the team anyway and making sure we have full value from our squad, because it's important they understand their value to me as the manager and to the team. So they'll all have the opportunities to play, but they have to be ready. And you can, regardless of another myth that it's only fitness through games, you can get to a good level of fitness through training and how you prepare as well. So we've got good pros here ready to do that.
Cheers.
All right.
So going back, obviously teams often talk about having a bounce. I mean, with Sheffield Wednesday, obviously they had a very, very difficult season last year. The players there, I think they won one game from September, last game of the season, wasn't it? So they then got through that. They then get through the summer, find out the news, they're starting on 0. They get that lift of the first 2 games. I mean, suddenly they must have emerged from a great big tunnel. So you're sort of facing a team that, in terms of morale and emotion, are probably as high as they've been for a long time.
Potentially. I don't know how many players are still left over from that squad, to be honest, because I haven't looked at them until today. Now that's my job this afternoon. So, but yeah, 100%. When you're under the cosh like they've been for such a long time, anything that you get given in a positive way, you're gonna enjoy. So it's I remember the scenes with that countdown thing. I remember seeing it on the TV when it was the 0 points and a bit of a lift. So, and they've started the season reasonably well. So, but look, I don't expect easy challenges or teams coming into the games at this stage of the season on a low ebb. But anyway, regardless, I think everyone starts the season with optimism and positivity and belief in what they've got. I think if you haven't got that at the start, you're pretty much screwed. So I think there's a lot of positive reinforcement from managers, coaches, supporters, owners about what each club is capable of producing. But I think we're in a similar spot. I think we had a great season last season on the back of another great season the season before. We've started this season well, so why shouldn't we be feeling just as good as anybody else out there?
I was going to say, they're probably looking at you thinking, hang on, we're playing a team that have been in form for, as you say, a long time.
Well, look, I don't know what they're thinking, but I like we want to try and make an impression on people before they play us and when they see us playing. And I'm not a big one for talking crap in conferences like this and playing all this mind games rubbish. I'm not into that. I think it's about players performing to their best level and stuff like that. And I think we have players that can do that consistently well. But I think you can build up a reputation. We're not the only ones of how strong you can be and your level of football and performance. How competitive it is to play against us. I think you have a body of work. That's why I don't talk like like I just said, because I want it to be authentic and I want it to be real. So you don't have to listen to me talk. Just watch my team play for 10 games on the bounce. I think you'll see what they're about. And I think we've got a group of players who are ready to, and they've already shown that they want to progress, they want to evolve, they want to be better. But we want to keep our identity because it's a good identity. It's a winning identity. It's not just some pie in the sky that looks nice. It's productive. It wins points. And that's what we want to be. We want to be a team that can win games. And I think it's a brilliant game for both clubs to go into. I think both sets of supporters are going to be looking forward to it in equal measure.
Obviously, the players themselves, as you said, some of the players won't have played there before. It's a long time since this club were there. But I think back to sort of Cardiff away last year, similar sort of perhaps occasion in the sense of playing a form team in a great stadium, which a lot of players won't have played at before.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I think I sort of try to steer clear of past games if they're that far back, because I think I'm very much one, if it's a disappointing one, about binning it. So you can't pick and choose what you're going to reference going forward. But I think there is little bits and pieces that players will take confidence from. But I think it's something we drum into them all the time, regardless of who we're playing. We've got to put our shoulders back. We've got to hold our heads high and be proud of what we are. But you've got to then go and produce it. You can't think a good game. You can't talk a good game. You've got to walk the walk. And I think we've got a club and a team that consistently does that. And we'll be challenged on Thursday. We'll be challenged next Wednesday. We'll be challenged the Saturday after. We've got tough games from now all the way through to the season, but we never pretend it's ever going to be anything different. And I think it puts us in a good place mentally to prepare for games. And so I just, I think we've shown over the course of the last 2 seasons, on different occasions in both seasons, home and away, that we can produce in big games. And I think Thursday will be another big game.
I mentioned the Burnley game as well. Obviously, you were talking about the excitement of a cup run last year. Knocked off 2 championship teams last season, so the players will go in there. The players who've been there before, obviously the new players will go in there with the confidence that you deserve to be on the same pitch as Burnley, and you can match them.
Yeah, I just I think they get. We don't dumb anything down. We don't. Whenever you're putting a shirt on and your boots on, that's it. We're full out. We're at it. And we want to win every game we play. I don't see a downside to winning as many games as possible. I know you get more fixtures and it could stretch you, but the feeling you get from winning in different competitions, the feeling you get when you're using 20 players to win those games, it's not just the same 11. I know for a fact what an adrenaline rush that was. Those games in particular, the Blackburn and Stoke game, how good that was for our whole squad to make 8 or 9 changes going away to a championship club and then go and win and then do it again. I'm telling you, the training ground was buzzing. Everyone was feeling good about themselves. Which is a difficult scenario to produce when you're picking 11 players and mentally rejecting 9 players or something each week. It's really difficult to keep them understanding that they've still got value. They've still got a massive part to play. But when you can validate that by giving them game time and they win, and we approach the game the same way, we don't all of a sudden start changing our preparation into these games. It's absolutely consistent. It's the most important game for us is our next one, regardless of who we're playing or who's playing for us. And we put as much emphasis and prep into each individual as we would do for a cup final, because we'd be letting them down if we didn't. And I do value those players. They've been fantastic for us for over 2 seasons now. Ones who have been here for a long time, one for a short time, but already they've contributed in these 2 games already we've played this season. But there's more contribution to make going forward, and so I love cup competitions for that, and I make it clear to the squad right from the off that they're all going to be needed, and they'll all have the opportunities to show what they can do.
I think the Stoke game was a corresponding round last time, wasn't it? I mean, the likes of George Lapsley, Brad Halliday, players coming in who I'm not sure they've been that much involved up to that point, but suddenly coming in. Slotting straight in, and it was a great performance.
Yeah, it was like Kieran Kelly. I remember playing as well. There was lots of them. I couldn't name the team off the top of my head, but it was something we decided early on. Not just the EFL Trophy, but the other cup competitions that we did in the FA Cup as well. We can't just have 11 players or 12 or 13 and just run them into the ground and ignore the others. It's not right. I don't think we've created a squad that is like that. I think we have to understand that that's why we have the consistency in how we do things, because I know I'm going to use all our players. Whoever's in there with a pair of boots, they've got an opportunity to play. It's up to them to be ready for it, but we'll give them every opportunity, as in how we train, how we talk, how clear we are with our tactical side. So when they have the opportunity to perform, everything's there for them. But yeah, I've been really pleased with what we've done over the previous 2 seasons, certainly in the EFL Trophy, which has produced good runs, even the season before. Consistently sticking to that, using the squad as much as we could.
Hi, Graham. As a manager trying to recruit players, particularly players from a higher division, do you think the presence of Sheffield Wednesday and Leicester in League One now makes it an even easier sell? More excitement around the division?
I'm not sure, because the players are more likely to go to them 2 clubs. So, that's the thing. So, I think the EFL is growing year in, year out. Personally, I think the quality is really good. It's really high. Coaches, players, stadiums, all that sort of thing. So I think the level is getting stronger each year, right through the pyramid, to be honest. So I think you see talent right throughout the divisions, and I think it's good to see. I think you can see good games all over the country in any level of football. But recruitment-wise, I think we sort of stick to what we're about. But I get when you sort of, I know, for instance, when I went up to manage Motherwell, I was looking at Rangers, Celtic, Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen, all those, thinking this is going to be a brilliant learning experience, managing in front of 50, 60,000 and that. So I get that, the level of the division can attract people and attract players, but then we have to fight against these fish as well to land something. So it's got its pros and cons.
And it's just another reminder, isn't it, that standing still at this level will see you go backwards.
At any level of football, you have to consistently evolve, be better, improve, get stronger, faster, cleverer, everything. You have to constantly fight. It's one of the joys of it, that you always finding new ways or different aspects that you have to improve on to be competitive as consistently as you can. And I think we've done that really well. But it's a really interesting part of the game, that I think that you have to get better all the time. You have to do that as an individual. You have to do it as a team. You have to do it as a club.
And I've lost track, but I think Sheffield Wednesday are up to 14 signings now. Henrik Pedersen was talking at the end of last season about adapting the style of play to League One. Is the fact that you've got 3 pre-seasons of culture and identity built around this club going to be a real strength of yours this season?
I believe it is. I believe it has been in the past. The longer the time, the more it's embedded, and then the players are taking it forward. It's not just me and Chris, in the first month, and then me, Chris, Doyle and Truey in the second and third month, and then a couple of players. 2 years in, 2.5 years in, you've got a lot of I wouldn't say disciples, but that sort of thing, where the message is clear. All the other staff around it know exactly how it works here. So it's not just, it doesn't belong to me, it belongs to the club now and the squad. So I think the consistency of that is powerful for the players, as long as they see the success attached to it. So it's no good being consistently poor or consistently bad. People are not going to believe in it. What we've done is consistently win games for 2 years, and maybe a little bit longer. And I think that's, we don't then go and overcomplicate. We want to improve all the time, but we improve the things that we're already good at to try and be better at it. We don't go, right, let's try and change this and play this different way. I think that would be upsetting for our players. Certainly when you've had success, they'd be asking, well, why are you changing this now? We've been really good at it. So there is a level of consistency that can be productive, without a shadow of a doubt. I feel we are in a much better place than a year ago, much better place than 2 years ago, but that's how a club should work. It should constantly evolve and improve.
So is it notably easier for the likes of Callum Connolly to integrate into this group now than it maybe was for the signings a couple of years ago, for example?
Yeah, definitely, because I think we were fighting for an identity there maybe 2 years ago, and fighting for validation in our work. So there's a lot of convincing. You still have to convince the players about how this is going to bring out the best in them. But when you've got 2 years of of success and winning games to sort of prove it, is a lot easier. I think it's a lot easier for the player to get involved. And I think when you're recruiting players like Callum and Macaulay, part of the reason they're here is because they've seen how the team has performed for 2 years. So that's it. They're inquisitive about, well, what have you been doing to be so successful? And we obviously explain that to them when we first have an individual talk with them. But then they see it for real when they come in and train. And maybe it catches a couple of them by surprise a little bit. I think listening to Macaulay's interview with you, Jamie, on Saturday, he was talking about the intensity. I could hear it in his voice. He was waiting for a little rest period, so he's going to have to wait a long time for that, maybe about 9 months. But I'm telling you, if you're successful, players want to win, and they want to enjoy themselves. And I think all our players over the last 2 years have won, and they've enjoyed it. So why not try and continue?
And just on Callum, how do you think a couple of years playing at centre back and the different perspective that gives him of the game will have improved him moving back into midfield?
I think that's a really good point, because I was sort of when we first looked at him and talked about him potentially joining, it was with that position in mind straight away. And I remember when I played in that position, holding midfield player, and I hadn't played there at all until I was 35. But because I was a defender with the game in front of me, and I was comfortable in possession, it really suited me, and probably 80% of the game I was already playing. So I think having Callum there, he knows defensively where to be. He's really comfortable in possession. But the advantage he had over me, he's played in central midfield hundreds of games, or lots of games, more than I did at that stage. So I think it suits his attributes. When I first sat down with him, explained, he was straight away, no, I want to play in central midfield. His agent had spoke to David about that before I'd even spoken to Callum, because that's the position we were looking for. So it was sort of hand in glove moment, really. But I know we're still trying to convince people and that thing, but that's fine. That's no problem. I've got no problem with people wondering and being inquisitive about different things. But I think they'll see in time that I think they've already seen. To be fair, your eyes don't lie. He's a good footballer. He's a good player. He's settled in really well, and I think he's. I think the position and the way we play suits him down to the ground.
And less so Callum, more so Tyreek Wright, for example, where it was a new position for him. Is there something exciting for you about teaching somebody to just do a different job for the team?
It's not something I look. I'm not some mad professor that's trying to prove things and that. I'm not. I just look at players. I know from, and probably my own career was a little bit that I played all over the pitch, throughout my career, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it if a manager said, "Well, I'm going to play here today. I'm going to try and do this." I thought there was value in he thought I was good enough to do it, and I also thought it'd give me more chance of playing. And I actually I just really enjoyed the challenge of it, sort of thing. And I always thought a manager was doing it because he thought I was suited to it, so it was going to somehow suit me as an individual. So I think I have an open mind when we sign players or look at players. And I look less at their position and what their attributes are, and then sort of envisage in my mind where it fits in with our squad, our team. But I always speak to the player first before he signs, and I don't necessarily sell it to him. I just say, look, this is what I see. And if the response is negative, then we either don't sign that player, or he actually says, I don't want to play there, and he doesn't sign. That's fine. But when they commit to the contract and sign out, they're clear about what it looks like. I think that's the most I would have asked for as a player, as an individual player. But I think good play. I think it's how you keep your mind open as a player as well, and not get pigeonholed in, I only play in this certain part of the pitch. Footballers can play all over the place. When you put a load of 10-year-olds out on the pitch, they'll run all over the place. And they, apart from maybe the number 9 who goal hangs, but you know what I mean. But you know what I mean. They will. You know what I mean. And I think there's a part of that. If you're certainly an experienced player, I think you can. What I like about certainly the experienced boys is when you sort of keeping that youthfulness alive inside them by giving them a little challenge and giving them something to learn or to experience. I think it's good for that, because I think the right pros and the good pros always sort of take that challenge on. So, but I'm not trying to be clever by it. I just know what my team needs to do to win games, how it needs to work, and what we need as cogs in that wheel. And I think the players that we have here right now all fit into our system.